Today's lesson is going to focus on creating new drawings in Autodesk Inventor. To do this, we click on New in the top left corner of our screen once we've opened up Inventor. Next, we want to click on the standard.idw, which is the drawing file. This is what you should see once your screen loads. It may take a while, so be patient. You'll see the ready status down here when it's done. Once this loads, we need to insert our base file. In most cases, if you're creating a multi-view drawing, it should be your front view of your object, which should appear in most orientations down here in this left corner. If, however, you were wanting to insert an isometric image, then you could do the same thing with the base image, simply selecting the isometric view instead of the front. So, in my case, I'm wanting to insert the front view. To do this, as I said, we click on Base. The Drawing View dialog box should appear. However, we haven't selected a file, so we need to do so before our picture can actually show what we want it to show. So we click on the Open Existing File and click on this little folder right here. In my case, I've already located my files previously, so I can simply click on the file. In your case, however, you will probably want to find your file, so you can click on the down arrow, locate your folder, and select it. So I've got the file I want. Now I simply click Open. In this case, I created my file in a student version of the software instead of the professional version, and therefore this dialog box appears. All I simply need to do is click on Yes to say I recognize that it is a student version and will have that little watermark on the edges. So now my file shows up here in this box, and I show that it says master here. That means that I have inserted my master or base file. So all I have to do now is, if I go down here, you will see that the image shows up. However, I can't see very well, so I want to move my dialog box up to the side out of the way. Now I can see my image a little better. Let's say that I wanted to insert the front, top, and right side views. Since I can't insert the top view very well because this box is in the way, what I can do is insert it to the side and then simply drag them later on to their correct positions. But, however, let's say I didn't want this scale. Let's say this was too small. I can go under Scale here and change my scale of my object. So let's make it twice as large. As you can see, obviously it's now too large for this screen. However, I could change this if I needed to. So I'll go back to Scale, and let's say I wanted half a scale in case it was too large originally. Now, you see, it is half the original scale of the object. In this case, however, it's now too small, and I would want to change that back. But let's say I wanted to get even more creative, and let's say I wanted to pick a scale that wasn't on here. Let's say I wanted maybe 8:1, or maybe 1/3 scale. I can simply click on a half, click on the box itself, hit backspace next to the 2, and insert the number 3. Now it's 1/3 scale of the original instead of 1/2. I could do this with 1/6, 1/8, 8:1 scale. It doesn't matter. I can change it however I need to. So let's go back to 1:1 scale, which is simply the original size of the object. So I want to insert the front view first, which is right here under Orientation. I could change the different view that I wanted to insert as my base file. However, in this case, the front view should be my base file. So I would click on Front. If I wanted to insert Isometric Top Right, which is the view you should see if you're in isometric, I would simply click on that, and I can see the isometric. So we're going to click on Front and insert that. So we're going to click here. You'll notice that the box appears. If I want to insert the top view, I simply have to drag up and you can see it appear. If I click there, I now have inserted my front view. However, if I drag to the right, you'll notice that it doesn't show the right side view, because the right side view only appears relative to the front view. So I would simply want to go down to the front view and then drag to the right. Now I can see the front view, and the right side and the top views. So simply click there. If I right click, I could click Done or Create. However, I also want to insert the isometric on this drawing. So I simply drag upward, see my isometric, click there. Now I want to finish what I've created. So I right click and click on Create. You'll notice all 4 drawings are now on the page. Let's say I wanted to move these to a different position. All I need to do is simply click on the outside this highlighted box. Now my view should highlight, so I can drag it to the left. you'll notice that the front view stays locked in the same orientation relative to the front. This is simply because the edges of our object should line up. We could change this if we needed to, however, to follow standard format, we want to keep those lined. So, now we have these two views lined up, but you'll notice the right side view is still too far to the right. So I can click on the outside here, selecting the right side view, and drag it to the left. Now you'll notice that it is inside my drawing. Let's say I wanted to move the isometric. The isometric is a freestanding view, so I can move it wherever I needed to. However, you'll notice that it's a little too large for my drawing. I have two options here. I can either change the scale of my original three drawings here, or I can change the scale of my isometric. To do so, I simply click on it, so that's selected, right click, and you'll notice in 2012 you should have these options appear. All of these ones down here and this ring. I want to click on edit view for this one. Now in this case I want to change the scale of my isometric. Hopefully it should allow us to change it. However, if it doesn't, we can delete the isometric, click on base again, and insert it as a separate base file and modify it that way. So let's say I change the scale of this object to, instead of 1/2, maybe 1 to 1.5. So not quite 1/2 and not quite 1. So 1:1.5. If I click OK, it should modify my isometric. So you notice it didn't affect the other files, and now I can see top, front, right, and my isometric, and all four of them fit on the drawing. You might have noticed that the hidden line shows up here that we can see here clearly on the top view. That represents that vertical piece right here on our isometric. However, what if we inserted a circle or a cylinder? This would not actually show the center line of that cylinder, so I'm going to show you an example of how to insert those into your drawing. To do so, I need to open up a new drawing file, so I can simply hold down Control and hit New, or I could click on up here and click on New. Either way, I can still create a new file. So I'm going to create a new drawing. You'll notice that now we have two tabs here, one labeled 316 and Drawing 5. 316 is simply the standard name it gave it based on my base file. It's not actually a saved drawing file, so I would still have to save it later. Now, however, I'm wanting to insert a part that has a round feature on it, preferably a hole or cylinder. So, I simply click on Base. It's going to bring up the same menu from before. I'm going to click on the little folder there, and I'm going to find a file that has a cylinder. So that one there has a hole, which I could use. I also have other options such as this one, that one, and multiple others. So, let's say I picked this one right here. It has a lot of round features and squares, so it works well for me. So I click on Open, Educational Version again, click Yes. So now I've got the file in there. I want to insert the front, the right, and the top side views again. So I'm going to click on here for the front, here for the right, and here for the top. Let's say I also wanted to insert the isometric just so I can see what the shape looks like. So I'm going to click there, not create before I click it. Now I'm going to actually create the final drawing. So, now I've created it, but you'll notice again that it's overlapping. So let's start by moving these to the correct places. So move that down and over, and then if I could, let's move that over here a little bit. So it's possible that I could make it fit if I wanted to. It would be kind of bunched, and you'll notice it doesn't look very professional. So again, on this one I would want to click on the isometric, right click, and click on Edit View, and change the scale to perhaps 1/2, or my custom 1 to 1.5, which is not quite between 1 and 1/2. So click OK. I've got my isometric. I can move it up to where I need it. So now that we've inserted our part and we've put in our isometric, we might want to line these up a little better just to make it look more professional. When you actually turn in your assignments later on using the same format, you'll want to do the same, making sure that the top line of your front or top view lines up approximately with the top point of our isometric. Same thing with our bottom here on our front view and our right side view, which should be automatically lined up, and our right side here with our right edge of our isometric. It's approximately right, not perfectly, but it's good enough for what we're doing right now. So, as I was saying before, we're wanting to put in the center line here on our circle, and even also the center marks on our circle here. So we have our shaft portion of it and our circle here. So, if we want to insert these different items, we need to do what's called annotating. So, up top, we have the Annotate tab, which allows us to insert things like dimensions, or our center marks, or our center lines. So, if I want to enter a center mark, it's much simpler than a center line, because simply all I have to do is click on the center mark button here, and click on the circle, and it automatically inserts my center mark for me. Very simple, straight to the point. If I want to insert a center mark, or sorry, center line, not a center mark, it's about as simple, just slightly different. So all I have to do is I don't want to click this one here, which says center line, because I'm not creating a center line between 2 points, which you can see on this image here, where we have the little 1 and the little 2. We have a center line between the two. We aren't wanting to do that because we're wanting to create a center line between our 2 edges of our object, not 2 parallel pieces. So, here I have a center line bisector, which is a lot easier to use. All I do is click on that, click on my 2 side lines. I can click the center point if I want to. It's better to click the line itself just to be safe. Click on the one line, click on the other line where we want our center line to be between, and automatically it inserts our center line, inserting it the proper way where we have alternating long and short lines. We want to do the same down here because we have the same shaft right here. So we're going to click on the bottom line or the top line first, and then the opposite line. It inserts it. All I have to do to finish is either right click and click on done, or I can just hit escape. Both give me the same result. A couple other quick items that I might show you just to make things simpler on you in the future is if I simply click on the center line that I created before and delete it, I'm going to show you how to insert an automatic center line. So I want to click on the view I want, right click, and I want to go down to automated center lines. So it automatically gives me the option of creating center lines. I'm going to click on what features I want. So I've got whole features. I don't really care for the rounds right now. I'm not doing that one. And maybe cylindrical features just to be safe. Here I also have revolved features, but I don't have any revolved surfaces, so I don't need to worry about that. Bends and punches. So we're done with that. I'm going to check here, objects in view, axis parallel. We have all these different options here. Let's just go with the one that we have right now. So if I click OK, it doesn't do anything. So I didn't quite do it right. So let's try that again. Automated center lines. Features. Let's try that one there, maybe, see if that gives us the same option. There we go. So in that case, because I didn't have the objects in view axis parallel, so I had parallel axes down here, that's the reason it didn't insert it. My center mark was already on here, so I didn't have to worry about that. So now I've got the center line on there, so that's another way to insert it instead of having to try and insert it manually. There are other shortcuts that I could show you later on, so you'll probably have other videos later on showing you how to do them.